Are you ready to learn about fusion energy? My name's Jeff Peachman, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Washington in Seattle. I'm working with the Fusion Industry Association to bring you this week's news. So let's get started. Here are our top stories this week. 1. Marathon Fusion claims it can turn mercury into gold while creating clean energy. 2. Finding the shadows in a fusion system faster with AI. So let's begin with our first story. Marathon Fusion claims it can turn mercury into gold while creating clean energy. So I know what you're thinking. This sounds like alchemy, so it can't possibly be true. So let's hold that thought for a minute. Back in the Middle Ages, alchemists tried to turn lead into gold, and they failed at doing that because gold is an element, and you can't use chemistry to turn one element into another. But now we have nuclear physics, and now we can change elements. In fact, we've been using particle accelerators for several decades to create gold. However, it's really expensive to do this, so you can't make a profit making gold that way. But that could change. All we need is a working nuclear fusion power plant. As a quick review, most fusion power plants plan to use deuterium and tritium as fuel. Now, deuterium is easy to get, but tritium doesn't exist in nature, so we have to make it artificially. So a fusion power plant will be designed to produce the tritium that it also consumes. The way we make that tritium is we have a breeder around the plasma filled with lithium. When a neutron hits the lithium, it transmutes from lithium into tritium. But there's a problem. Each fusion reaction only produces one neutron, and each tritium requires one neutron. So if you lose a single neutron, you can't produce enough tritium to keep the reactor going. We've known about this problem for a long time, and the solution is to use neutron multipliers. A neutron multiplier is something like lead or beryllium, where if you hit it with a neutron, it makes more neutrons, and those surplus neutrons can be used to make the tritium that we need. Marathon Fusion has proposed a new neutron multiplier. They proposed using mercury, the same stuff that we see in old thermometers, like liquid mercury. Technically, they're planning on using mercury 198. When you hit mercury 198 with a neutron, it becomes mercury 197, and now you have two neutrons. That mercury 197 is unstable. It's radioactive. So in a few days, it decays into gold. So conceivably, you could produce a fusion power plant, which is producing gold as a byproduct, and then you could sell that gold to make more profit. So far, this idea has only been simulated. No one has built this or tried this, and it's going to be several years before someone can do it. But if they pull it off, alchemy will finally be a real thing, which is profitable. 2. Finding the shadows in a fusion system faster with AI. Commonwealth Fusion Systems, an FIA member company, has worked with the Department of Energy to produce a new AI tool that'll be used to produce fusion power plants faster, to design them faster. One of the big problems in fusion energy right now is how to handle the incredible amount of heat which reaches the walls. Engineers need to simulate this heating, so they've produced software packages such as HEAT, and HEAT stands for Heat Flux Engineering Analysis Toolkit. Now, for certain tasks, it requires a lot of computing power, and therefore time, which slows down the design process. One of those tasks is looking for magnetic shadows. Now, in a plasma, charged particles like to follow magnetic field lines. So you can imagine that if a field line is blocked by some solid object, then if you keep following that field line, anything downstream of where it was blocked will be shadowed, and so heat won't go there. What we want to do is spread the heat out as evenly as possible to avoid hot spots. So we have programs such as HEAT, which will look for these magnetic shadows. This is a machine learning model which was trained on over 1,000 heat simulations. And as a result, it can complete the same task in milliseconds. So what used to take a half hour is now milliseconds. This isn't the only AI tool which is being developed for fusion energy. There's a lot of them like this. So using AI, we're able to solve fusion energy at a pace that wasn't possible before. That's it for our main stories, but I have two bonus stories for you this week. The first is University of Arizona and industry partners poised to advance fusion innovation. The second bonus story is boron powder boosts fusion plasma control. One problem in modern fusion device is the walls are being made of tungsten. Tungsten is chosen because it has a very high melting point. one of the problems with tungsten is that it's an impurity, and if that impurity gets into your plasma, it can radiate away a lot of heat, and we need that heat to keep the reaction going. What these researchers found is that they can release little puffs of boron powder along the walls of the device, and this will actually suppress the tungsten which is coming off the walls, which could help a lot of different teams in this space. So that's a really interesting result. And that's all I have for today. So if you liked this, remember to hit like and subscribe, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.